Welcome back to my channel, Star Booze.
When the majority of people consider Las Vegas, they envision neon lights, casinos, and quick cash. However, if you have ever flipped, you are aware of the History Channel's one location in the city that specializes in anything much more fascinating than pornographic treasure and poker chips. Additionally, at the Rick Harrison, the man at the heart of it, all behind the porn shop with gold and silver, didn't merely manage a company. He constructed an empire from lost artifacts, urgent transactions, and keen intuition. Furthermore, the magnitude of his wealth, his family has been left behind. Startled, he may be known to you as the cool, calm individual on Porn Stars. However, Rick's path to a $9 million fortune is full with hustling, maneuvers, and danger. Nobody anticipated it. Let's go back. In time to tape, Rick was a teenager in 1981, working for Richard Oldman, his father Harrison, within a small used shop. The original store had only 300 stranded on Las Vegas Boulevard, square feet, selling collectibles and coins. While Rick worked the counter that day at repossessed automobiles at night. That's how he settled the bills. However, he had larger plans. He and his father had aspirations of becoming their shop into a larger one, authentic pornographic store. The catch, law in Las Vegas made that nearly impossible. You couldn't open a porn shop at any time you desired. The city has been tied since 1955, porn licenses to increase the population. Each time the city arrived at a specific number, several new licenses would become available. Up. Rick did what most folks would do, wouldn't. He began phoning the city's statistician, each week holding out want the populace to experience the subsequent threshold. Vegas passed, the Rick jumped at the magic number. The Harrison family obtained a pornographic license, and the porn shop with gold and silver was born directly off the strip in the center of the action. From there, the numbers began to rise quickly. Rick and his father were lending money in 2005, around $3 million annually. Just that generated over $700,000 a year, just out of curiosity. Additionally, that was before everything went haywire. The store turned into a location when gamblers used Rolex watches as collateral togas money where followers of sports sold, autographed souvenirs, and the places where each day brought in anything unusual, uncommon, or both. However, more than foot traffic was what Rick desired. The store received notice in the early 2000s from a film and a PBS documentary on The Sleepy. Aired on Comedy Central. Rick noticed the potential. He began making a TV pitch, display. He continued to pitch it for years, YouTube, HBO, and everyone else who would pay attention. Until 2009, nothing remained. The History Channel intervened at that point, and Porn Stars came into being. The structure was easy. Actual folks entering with genuine items, hoping to leave with money. However, the format wasn't what made it works. Rick was the one. With his keen eye, sardonic humor, and in-depth understanding of almost anything, even vintage firearms, Rick rose to the Super Bowl rings as a breakthrough performer. And this is where things stand. Have a turn. Burnout is evident in most reality shows following a few seasons. Porn Star didn't. It has aired 633 times since June 2023. Episodes in 21 seasons. That isn't typical. That is creating history. The show is even renewed by the History Channel in 80-episode batches, a rare occurrence in TV. The store attracted tourist.attractor, bringing in more than 4,000 visitors each day at its height. And Rick's wealth increased along with it. However, as the cameras captured laughter and bargains behind, Rick was making intelligent monetary actions. He developed into a real property. He made gold and silver investments. Marketplaces. Additionally, when inflation began, Rick was in the lead as things heated up in the 2020s of the curve. Perhaps you've seen him, a warning on Fox Business about it. Although others were terrified of getting up prices as well as unstable banks, Rick was stacking metal. He speaks out about it. He asserts that the U.S. government is printing money in the form of confetti, and individuals are purchasing silver and gold to safeguard their riches. The Fort Knox contains 147.3 million gold ounces, but Rick is unsure if anything is still there. He has requested audits and noted gaps in the supply chain, and described how South Korea and other nations have limited sales of gold due to its ideas being hoarded by governments. To Rick, gold ownership isn't ostentatious. It is a matter of survival. Furthermore, that isn't theory. That's how he's preserving his $9 million estate. However, Rick, it's not just money. Harrison is well built. He has constructed a complete cultural apparatus, one that goes much beyond a Las Vegas porn shop. Vegas. Corey Harrison, his son, is superior referred to their supporters as Big Hose didn't merely enter a company. He was raised there. First, Corey polished the silver in the shadowing his father in the rear room and starting from scratch in the trade. He currently works as a full-time manager at, in addition to the gold and silver porn shop, main character on porn, Stars. Whether he's completing high-profile transactions or outbidding vendors with keen intuition, Corey has made a business out of himself, don't force. And that's the truth for Rick, prosperity over generations. Giving out more rather than money, passing down the game itself. Next are Austin Russell, Chumley, Corey's best friend from childhood and porn star's wild card. Chumley began as the hilarious sidekick that made jokes throughout episodes, but he's the Rick of today, depends on in relation to Pokemon Pop, old toys, sneakers, and card sculptural souvenirs. He is capable of price items that you most likely overlooked were valuable in any way. And, as of right now in 2025, the type of information is worth more than never. Porn Stars Do's second season Chumley finds a collector in America sitting on more than $1.2 million in Florida amount of Pokemon cards. That's serious. In 2022, just one card was put up for auction. For $900,000. And Rick acknowledges he doesn't understand. Chumley does, however. Additionally, that's why does the store suddenly make over $1 million in trading cards annually. You'll additionally witness Rick and the team go into uncommon depiction of Colonel Sanders in Kentucky. Rick lost that one, $900. However, the true worth to him was the narrative. Due to pop culture souvenirs such as these, old KFC, Coca-Cola, and even vintage movie posters into sentimentality, it links individuals to air call, and that hook of passion turns ordinary items become assets worth six figures. It's best expressed by Rick. It's not about what you recall. It concerns what a whole generations do not forget. That's where it's actual money. Additionally, Rick has been spending. Porn stars are fond on vintage automobiles. Do America. He acquires a Superb from 1971 in Providence for a 1957 Ford Thunderbird and $54,000 Cincinnati Arbor for $40,000. Rick is aware that they are advantages. It's worth increases if you know where to how to look and how to bargain. The most insane part, he performs all of this as the fans wait in line, all the way up the block. Thousands of individuals arrive, only to see what the crew is doing. Spot value is what they do best in the most unlikely locations. Additionally, this season, the objects are not the only focus. It's son, Rick. While on a visit to, he received recognition as a Kentucky, the title Colonel, which derives straight from the governor of the state. That recognition is more than just television. Ratings. Leadership is key, service and character. Idram, the same characteristics that transformed a thrift shop into a worldwide franchise. Collectively, this trio transformed a pornographic store into a major success. Additionally, when it comes to gold, Rick is able to. Additionally, spend it, but always with a goal. Seize the unique opportunity when he paid over twice the asking amount. 4. A letter written by poet Henry in the 19th century Longfellow Wadsworth. The vendor desired $300. Following verification, Rick provided $700. Not because he became entangled with feelings, but since he was aware of the object was genuine and would attract a lot more long-term worth. Rick thinks like that. If paying more now means earning more later, do so. It's not sentiment, it's strategy. What does this mean for his family? It indicates, in addition to a store, they're inheriting a brand. They will inherit a device, a company that provided $3 million in loans each year, a program that millions of people watch worldwide the globe, as well as a gold, silver, and unique artifacts that are weatherproof, anything follows. And now for the part that has the most impact. When Rick's daddied in 2018, the porn store lost more than simply its co-founder, its spine. Richard, the elderly man Harrison, had been a porn mainstay. Stars, sardonic humor, keen intuition, and decades of expertise, condensed into one angry expression. It was he who initiated the whole trip using a second-hand back in 1981. Additionally, by the time he passed away, he had amassed $5 million profit from the popular show and the store. This is where things start to change, though. Prior to his passing, Richard revised his will. Additionally, in that updated version, he clearly stated who would and would not inherit his legacy. His Joanne, the wife, remained in the will, and so did Rick, the store's spokesperson and the one who maintained the company's operations for decades. Joseph, his other sons, and Christopher were also given names till they weren't. In the most recent version from 2017, Richard stopped talking about Christopher. No inheritance, no shares, nothing. Additionally, he didn't conceal it. The will explicitly said that despite his affection and love, Christopher felt that he was being purposefully disinherited. That's a legal action, and it garnered media attention for it appeared so frigid. Nobody in the family has ever given an explanation for why it occurred. The true cause remains locked today. Away. However, one thing is evident. Richard didn't wish for any misunderstanding regarding what to be in charge of the Harrison legacy. Rick was left in command. Just that come sunder. Strain. However, then came the lawsuits. Following Richard's passing, Joanne Rick's mother, Harrison, filed a lawsuit, action regarding the porn shop's control. She asserted that while in the hospital in 2000, Rick had her transfer her 51% stake in the company. When Richard passed away, she claims, she ought to have gotten his remaining 49%, indicating complete authority over the store. However, based on her lawsuit, Rick failed to supply the complete documents, $500,000 in cash and silver, she says. Vanished into thin air. She desires harms. She requests an asset report and she requests that a court place a judicial hold on Rick's utilization of any item connected to the family property. And that's when feelings come in. Spill over since we're not conversing. No longer about TV money. We are conversing. Regarding disputes over inheritance, charges, gold is gone, and a son is being sued by over the family business with his mother. Have you ever felt like Rick had it easy? This is where that concept fits in. Separate. Rick continues to press in the meanwhile. Ahead. As the court case progresses behind the scenes, he continues to make significant moves. He listed his luxury in 2019, Las Vegas house for $3.99 million. It was a stronghold. Nearly 9,000 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms, a 12-0 wine cellar, a home theater with seats that has a lagoon-style capacity of 1,000 bottles. pool featuring a 10-foot cascade, lazy river, as well as a spa. He dropped $600,000 for remodeling. The granite, the expensive flooring alone $45,000. It was constructed by Rick for his family. However, after the children were grown, the area became excessive. He therefore listed it and let go of another chapter with it. However, not all of Rick's investments are in real estate. He spends a lot of money on what he knows best, collectibles. Among his most incredible deals occurred in 2025 when he entered a nearby art gallery in Vegas and witnessed a unique collection of where the Wild Things illustrations are the work of Maurice Sack. These were the actual, something like inked childhood pages classic that was never formally marketplace. The proprietor desired $375,000 was spent on the set. Rick brought in his specialist who evaluated the components at $310,000. Rick didn't flinch, though, and negotiated assiduously and arrived at $250,000. Thus, it was among the largest purchases in the history of porn stars. Understood that future worth was at stake. The value of those illustrations won't decrease. They will be grateful. Rick is also aware of precisely how that affects the wealth he's constructing. Thus, the query now becomes larger. What becomes of all this? Priceless property worth millions. Rare metals and antiques as Rick steps away. The tears start to flow at that point. Because Rick is lining up the inheritance is more than simply money in the bank. It's past. It has narrative assets. It's agreements based on risk and knowledge. His next in line is son Corey. Corey has been in the company since he was a little child, working the floor, recording the show, and gaining knowledge all sides. However, taking over Rick's empire will not be simple. There's pressure, friction within, the family, his grandmother's lawsuit, and then the emotional burden is replaced by man who became involved in porn, dealing in a worldwide brand. It's not just Corey affected. Kim, Rick's ex-wife, is there. Tracy, his ex-wife, and his third Amanda Palmer, his spouse, whom he wed in 2021. That family tree is complicated, and when complex meets large money relationships tend to become messy. Rick left behind more than one porn business along the Las Vegas Boulevard. It's a complete financial system. Money, gold, and rare real estate, collectibles, and shows royalties, as well as a recent media endeavor. Rick has been observed purchasing old coins, autographed guitars, and $250,000 worth of art. However, he takes something that might increase his wealth. The microphone goes considerably farther. Rick Harrison is introducing a new podcast, and it's bigger than him alone. Chumley is also in. Porn After Dark is the name of it, and it will be available for streaming platforms in the early 2025. Consider it. Two of the voices of well-known porn actors include lowering the curtain and speaking from behind the scenery's sales, unique objects and absurd clients, and operating without cameras all around. There is already a genuine buzz. The Tracy, the previous executive producer of the show Whittaker, is reportedly a visitor on board. Names like Las Vegas are among the occurrences. ZZ Top and Mark Davis, owners of the Raiders' Billy Gibbons, guitarist. That podcast might bring in millions on its own. Sponsors are forming a line. Streaming networks are observing, and Rick has complete authority over need. But take a step back and consult the larger query. What occurs when Rick takes a step permanently? Gone. Let's start with the numbers. Rick's estimated net worth as of right now, $9 million. This encompasses his porn pays $100,000 per episode. As of this present, Starz has 21 seasons and calculating. It's not simply success on TV, that's the past. Seldom do networks order 81 episodes at a time. That was made by Rick.Occur. He created a one-location pornographic purchase from a well-known national brand. And he is not the end of the empire. His big hoses kid, Corey Harrison, is valuable. Around $4 million, and has been employed while he was a teenager working in the shop. Corey has assumed greater accountability as Rick goes into the media. He's even released a memoir under a license to porn that delves into his personal path and travels through the family company. He's made audacious purchases as well, such as a $38,000 boat, and retains the younger viewers. Devoted to the series. Next, there's Austin Russell and Chumley, who may appreciate the humorous relief, however, he's a significant brand on his own. He began working at the porn business at the age of 21, and currently makes each episode cost $25,000. He is the owner of Chumley's a novelty shop called Candy on the Boulevard with its own fan base. His wealth is almost $5 million. However, despite everything that Rick continues to believe, Corey is the one most qualified to run the company. Fans notice the conflict that resulted from that. They are shown in a 2024 YouTube video, where Rick criticized Chumley for his treatment of a uncommon coin transaction. It was sloppy, he said. Chumley desired to take the lead, and Rick made it apparent that he trusted the management. Goes to Corey. Leia now in the remainder of Rick's universe. He truly possesses luxury, property, which includes the $399 million granite plank, mansion in Summerland floors, a home theater with 12 seats, a 10-foot lazy river, and a cascade. That's riches that is rarely seen by porn brokers. He's continuing to receive income from porn stars, has introduced spin-offs including As America is Home to Porn Stars. Within the series, Chumley, Rick, and Corey set out to meet vendors in the United States. It has gives the franchise new life, and it sustained the brand outside of the Vegas shop. And this brings us full circle to the heading. Rick Harrison leaves a wealth that brings his family to tears because there are several types of tears. Some are about pride. Some originate from suffering. When Rick finally resigns or upon the transfer of his assets, that $9 million don't go unnoticed. It leads to Arity Sun, an aspirational co-star, and a mother who feels that she should be given half the company. It relates to a heritage that was meticulously constructed by 3 generations, but there are still fissures that must be fixed. Consequently, Rick's next motions are important. He is entering the media. He's making investments in memorabilia that do not depreciate, but appreciate. He's retaining tangible assets when inflation trembles the economy. He's instructing his children in manage the store, but he's also demonstrating how to build a future that goes beyond it. That's why his actions continue to captivate audiences next. Since Rick didn't merely construct he created a blueprint for a porn business, and once that blueprint is turned into a will, all of it will be important. The actual estate, the royalties, the gold and the lawsuits, the family tree, and the podcast. The story of Rick Harrison began with a 3 for a second-hand stereo loan. He is now valuable, millions. Additionally, as the dust settles, 2 things could happen with fortune. Bring his family together or drive them apart.